Welcome back to each and every one of you. Lovely folks out there ready to see some ridiculousness, some chaos, and some more of these lovely people who have rejoined me. Say hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
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 So,
What's up?
welcome back for the second half of the Mountain Shade Village one shot. Now, the one shot chaser. There was just too much to contain in the initial game. So, I'm very excited to get back to the story. So, before we do a little bit of a recap, let's reintroduce everybody in case anybody is just coming in for the very first time to meet these characters for the very first time. So we will start here with Perchance.
Oh my goodness. Hello, everyone. My name is Perchance to Dream here online, but my real name is Laura. And I am Edward, who is a human level 10 warlock dealing with a whole lot of stuff. He's a sweet guy who's just figuring out how the world works. He wants some additional trauma. He's also not doing great. So he wants to be able to spend his life as well as he can before time runs out. So far, he's having a good time with his found family.
He's doing his best. Ginger.
Yes, hi. I'm Ginger here on Twitch. I'm playing Kellum, half-elf ranger. Spent a lot of his years traveling the world, and now he's found himself with this group and is enjoying being able to help lead us all up the mountain here without too many issues thus far.
And doing a pretty good job of it, I would say.
So far, so good.
There's a lot of things that you guys have done a lot better with than you would have without a ranger in the group. So there's a lot of things that I've kind of glossed over because you have a ranger in the group. So be very thankful to Kellum. Mel.
Hello. I'm Mel, aka Melouette on most socials. Tonight I am playing Sir Bartrisha Luscious Evelina Papilophagus III, aka Sir Blep, currently a Tyrannosaurus Blep. She's a Corgian Oath of Devotion paladin when she's not a T-Rex.
Ponderkind.
Hello, friends. I'm Ponderkind, and I am currently playing as Oliver Fulbright, a young man who has spent most of his life trapped in a musty library, right, just studying, and now is out on an adventure to prove to his parents that, no, Mom, it's not just a phase.
Oliver has gotten some good reception on the YouTube as well. Oliver is turning into a fan favorite, which I greatly enjoy. I love each and every one of these characters, and I want to take them with me forever and ever because they are wonderful. Goose.
Hello, I'm Goosetown or Noah, and I'm playing Arbor, a feathery tiefling druid who's been having a lot of fun, whether that is chilling naked in a hot spring or actually helping out the rest of his party.
Yes. Oh, a classic moment of I've had a hard day. I choose hot spring over everything else. I absolutely love it. So we were chatting a little bit before we went live here in regards to what we remember from the last session, which was now over a month ago. So I'd like to start with what you guys remember from the last session or what might be available in at least some of your notes, and I will help fill in from there. So who remembers anything about the last session?
I know we ended with getting the Winter Traveler's Boon from our passing friend.
Yes.
So we have that with us.
Yes. And you all had this conversation shockingly without any particular interest, which was a surprise to me. So I will make a little note here and we will revisit that in a moment. But yes, the last real encounter that you had before we wrapped up at the end of the night was the Winter Traveler's Boon. We had a whole bunch of stuff happen. As Sir Blep mentioned, we have now Tyrannocorgi, thanks to a greater polymorph or a polymorph spell.
I believe it was just polymorph.
Just regular
Actually.
polymorph, yes.
And I believe the reason Oliver did that was because we were fighting a oh god, what was the creature called?
Yoklo?
That thing.
Yoklo?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I could not pronounce that correctly at all.
I had to write it down. Like, I butcher it every time.
Yeah. Very good. And then previous to that, or the directly preceding event to that was
It was a
the
terrible-
interaction with the hot springs.
Yeah.
Where you
Poor monkeys.
angered a bunch of snub-nosed monkeys.
They were just living their best life.
They were just being monkeys.
Rancid vibes. We came in with the most rancid vibes. Tragic. Tragic.
I mean, we do our best. We do our best. So, are there any other details specifically that you guys remember from the course of the previous session?
Am I still holding our main quest item?
The talisman, as last I checked,
Yes.
is still within your possession, my friend.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't remember it, because at that point you guys had like mostly gotten ready to go up the mountain.
Yeah.
You were still in the general vicinity of the hot springs area. However, I did go back and like listen back through, and so at that point time would have progressed enough that while it's still early in the evening, you do have a place that, as far as you can tell, is fairly safe to stay if you guys want to have a full night's rest or attempt a full night's rest. So that's available to you if you want to do that. But let's do a full sort of recap of the last session so that we can kind of bring everybody into the story up to this point. So you were all recruited in the in a much more metropolitan area than you are currently by Guildmaster Arden, to go up the mountain and find this mysterious constable and follow up on this job that was given to him in order to resolve some sort of mysterious unrest. When you took off up the mountain, you didn't really have a whole lot of information in terms of what was available or really in store for you, except that you were going to be going up and dealing with the upper altitudes of the mountain range, the Ashfold Caldera Mountains. And so you made your way up the mountains towards the base of the mountain peak and discovered a very strangely settled and highly populated area that you really didn't anticipate to be the case until you were up there and saw it for yourselves, and found the mysterious constable, and it turned out to be a half-elven woman by the name of Constable Loizen, who had a lovely mastiff that Oliver enjoyed befriending and apparently made Sir Blep very jealous. And Loizen gave you instructions to go and speak to Speaker Bren in the Speaker's Hall and Master Enchanter Echan in the Forge, who, as the name suggests, was not actually a smith of any kind, but a completely different sort of profession, which continued to startle Oliver, who discovered that not only was this a highly populous area, but also a highly enchanted and magical area as well. Armed with a forge coal from Echan and a set of snowshoes to help you traverse the heavy remaining snowfalls in the early spring, you continued your way up. You also received a good deal of kit, which I believe got written down at some point. There it is. Checking the notes. Very good. So you got a little bit of kit from the constable. You also had a little bit that you had collected in town. And you were told by Speaker Bren to go and seek what seemed to be a stone room with ancient, brilliant beings of the past in it. Speaker Bren was unfortunately unable to give you much more in terms of details because while the speaker is well versed in receiving visions from the one cloaked in shadows and smoke, that doesn't mean that they are particularly easy to decipher at any given point. So that is the information that has driven you up the mountain peak. Yes, Oliver.
I believe I was promised a certificate
Yes.
so that I can
yes.
show my parents that I am adventuring.
Oliver did request a certificate from Speaker Bren to make sure that things were were appropriately evidenced in his assistance in being a heroic adventurer, which was delightful.
Just making
Very
sure
big
that,
fan.
that Speaker Burn remembered.
Yes. Speaker Bren definitely remembers. That was a very noticeable thing to be asked at any given point. But you took off up the mountain, encountered some wildlife, some not so native wildlife, and had quite an encounter with a possessed dire wolf that was under the influence of this yoklol, which you have been slowly trying to resuscitate. And I do not recall if you guys had decided to bring it along with you or if you were going to just kind of leave it out in the wilds or what. But at the end of that, you had kind of started to go, well, maybe it's time for us to continue moving on amid this growing winter storm, to which you were greeted by a surprisingly underdressed but still fairly well prepared traveler coming down the mountain, um, down the path towards you, and seemingly rather nonplussed by what must have been a cacophonous scuffle with this fiend, and offered you an orb that would give you a little bit of assistance with the continuing to grow storm and winter conditions that were buffeting the mountains. So I believe, if I remember correctly, that was about to end. I know that Arbor had offered to like show the trinket, the Cairn Walker's pendant to their guest. But beyond that, I will leave it to you. If you wanted to have more conversation with that person, I have lost my encounter table. There we go. But it is late in the day. You are not far from the hot springs. I believe that Arbor has started to get dressed again at
We
this
would
point.
hope. One would
Please,
hope.
Please get dressed again. One would hope that just this stranger comes out of the woods and does not just happen upon you with no clothing.
One
I
would
mean,
hope.
this figure seemed pretty nonplussed. Yeah.
That's fair.
It's strange, but they've certainly seen stranger, right? Maybe.
Possibly.
A T-Rex corgi.
True.
I'm just
True.
vibing.
Just,
you're
vibing.
on the
Just
top.
here right now.
Right. Blep is a corgi. Is a T-Rex corgi.
T-Blip.
Right. Right. We can't forget that detail.
T-blip. Yes. Perfect. Alrighty. So, where's my Callum, Sir Blep, and Arbor?
Mm-hmm.
I will allow all of you to make me an insight check.
Yes.
Ooh,
I'm very excited. I thought it was going to land on the 7. It landed on the 17 plus 5 is a 22.
yeah, very nice. So, Callum, with your 19, you give this traveler a bit of a kind of once over. You have a pretty keen eye overall. Your insight is pretty decent. And there's something about the way this person speaks that kind of tips you off that they are a lot more worldly than they seem to be. Like everything about their clothing and everything like that tells you that they're just the average drifter, average person going through, like
Mhm.
it's sort of that gray man concept of like they could disappear into a crowd and nobody would notice. Like they're very
Yeah.
clearly like a traveler, and so in that
Mhm.
way they can garner a little bit of attention, but overall they don't like catch your eye, really. Everything about the way they're dressed, the way they carry themselves.
Yeah.
But there's something that you notice about them that gives a sense of wisdom that seems unmatched to the way they present themselves. They
Okay.
have a confidence about them that seems out of place in that way. And so you know that
vaguely recall
there's
something
something
about
about this person that you're just like,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but like this person has something behind them. And Blep, with your 22,
I have to interrupt with a correction because I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to use T-Rex stats because I'm still currently a T-Rex.
ooh, yeah.
That would be
yeah.
an 18.
What is your passive as a T-Rex?
That's if it was my passive, it would be an 11.
11? Okay.
Mhm.
Then yeah, you're too busy being a dinosaur
Too busy.
to even
Somehow my front arms got even smaller and stumpier.
you're just distracted by the
Just my head is so big and my arms are so little.
Master. I think this was a very well thought out plan. Oh, hilarious. All right. So ignore making a check at all
Yep.
then.
Yep.
Hysterical.
Yeah.
So Kellum, there is something about this traveler that just it tips you off that they are not just a traveler.
I'm trying to think. I think it's part of that. What I pick up, is there any like air of like the trustworthiness kind of thing of like they are
Yeah.
travel, they can do both, but also like there's wisdom and the ability to believe and trust in what's being said, kind of thing.
Make me another insight check. Just as a baseline. Okay. So yeah, as you take a moment to kind of look a little deeper into their personality, because this has kind of tipped off your attention, you do feel that sense of like camaraderie that comes with
Sure.
somebody who's of your cloth,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
That there is something about this person that is very trustworthy, and you feel like there's an allyship here, even though you've barely met this person.
Yeah. Okay. And I somewhat thinking back, I think we had some of this exchange before, and we had confirmed with the traveler that yes, there's something up ahead. Like we're on the right path. There's something up there, but they're on their way.
Yeah,
Somewhere
they're
else.
off
Like
in a different direction. Yeah,
yeah,
basically
they're
they
doing
are.
their thing, but they confirm like nope, you're on the right path. But here's a thing to help you because it's snowing up there, and they gave us the
Yeah.
orb. Okay.
Yeah, because they came down to the point of the hot spring, and they are going to be taking off like down the mountain range as opposed to continuing down towards the village.
Got it. We're probably
All right.
comfortable with the exchange, and probably even to the point of going to the group and kind of relaying what you said earlier of, I know Kellum's been very much attentive to the time of day because camping on a mountain face during a storm isn't the safest thing to do.
Yeah.
So probably would relay the fact that kind of trusting the traveler and doing their thing as we end that and saying that this is potentially a place for us to set up for the night.
Yeah.
Rest
Well,
up for
and
that final push.
you're kind of noticing that where you are seems to be a little bit sheltered. Like you are on the storm facing side of the mountain still, but this little place that you are in does have an outcropping to it, and it does seem to be somewhat sheltered by the tree stand and such, in a way that allows you to feel like this is going to be a place where it's going to be harder for the weather to actually reach you here. There's a protectiveness about this. Like you're still getting snowfall and stuff like that, but there's a windbreak such that you're not getting nearly as much of the like frigid temperatures.
Well, especially thinking, I think the last cave we found had Yeti in it or something. Like, there's no real guarantee that anywhere higher up will be safer. So it's
Right.
one of those, like, this is definitely sufficient for what we need for us to rest up, recover.
And if we
proceed
wanted
forward.
to like triple check this, I do have a cantrip that can predict the weather for our current location for the next 24 hours.
Very
So
nice.
if we want to do that, I can cast Druidcraft.
That's true. That's true. And you do have the Cairnwalker's pendant as well that casts Druidcraft as well. So you
It
have
doesn't hurt,
Yeah,
just
we
to make sure.
getting any
access to those
info from that since we talked to this mysterious figure? Has it alerted me at all?
There's so give me Arbor, give me either I will let you roll nature or religion for this.
Oh, same difference.
Yeah, like your bonus, it's basically like which flavor you
Yeah.
want. Do you want the druidy side of it or do you want the religious side of it?
Well, I pick nature.
Okay. Um this with a 9, that's, you know that there are facets of this that are not active right now. Um up until this point, as we discussed previously when you were lower down the mountain, it seems to be sending you in a direction from one point to the next. Um and you know what? Give me just a plain wisdom check really quickly.
Sure. Ooh.
The dice are not liking you today.
They are not.
So there's very clearly like there's a lot of markings on this and there's a lot of different schools of information on this pendant. You know that there are religious glyphs on this. You know that there's druid craft involved. You know that there's just plain arcane enchanting magic involved. But you've only seen it do one thing so far. And you know that it can cast druidcraft. But you have a sense that there's stuff that this pendant can do that you have not figured out how to do yet.
The internal dilemma of I am very curious about this object, but also so tired.
Yeah. It's been a very rough
day.
time. Yeah. So, before we continue forward with that next decision, was there anything else that you guys wanted to do with this traveler? I believe that you were going to kind of show off the talisman to the traveler from last session. And they're willing to go over and look at it and all of that kind of stuff. But if there's anything else that you guys want to do with that encounter, I am leaving that up to you guys to lead that discussion. Because otherwise I am going to let that NPC walk away.
I see the gears turning.
I don't have anything else.
I feel like the entire time that we're interacting with him, Blep is just like sniffing him in T-Rex form. Like, is he dangerous?
I mean, and if anybody wants to kind of do that kind of assessment, this is a great opportunity to do that. It's entirely up to you guys, you know. But I started with those two insight rolls, well, the 3 insight
Mhm.
rolls, because of the passive insight that you guys have on your character sheets. So, if anybody else is feeling particularly curious or anything like that, now is the time.
I would love to roll for insight as well, if that is
Sure.
all right.
Definitely.
Because
Let's see
I
what
know
you
that
got.
Edward's going to be curious about this.
Yeah.
He's going to want to know.
Oliver, you too?
I would like to know if he looks like the type to be giving away certificates.
I knew it. I freaking knew it.
Would you like to ask him that outright, or are you trying to size him up to see if he might do that for you?
I think I want to try to size him up first because I've been through a lot of scary things right now, and it's a little stressful. So I don't want to ask outright.
Go ahead and roll that insight to see if he seems the kind of guy who you could ask for a certificate.
Oh,
Edward, you get the very similar sense that Callum got, that there is something underneath the mild-mannered traveler vibe that you are getting. Like, his clothes say one thing and their approach, their face says another. They do seem very, genuinely friendly and helpful, but like their clothing and everything seems like it is definitely trying to play down whatever background or knowledge or whatever it is they seem to have. Oliver, with your roll of a 3, this person seems like the perfect person to ask for a certificate. This person is gonna have exactly what you need. This is an authority figure that you can get that stamp of approval from, and it's gonna be perfect. You know it
All right.
in your heart
All
of
right.
hearts that this
I
person
immediately Yeah.
is
So I
will do that.
immediately begin to like I take off like my backpack and I begin like rummaging through it as quickly as I can to get out my quill, my inkwell, and a bunch of like parchment.
Oh my
I
god.
excitedly like waddle up to him and I'm like, "Sir, excuse me.
Y- Yes.
Would you mind signing a certificate that certifies that I am an adventurer and that I have been helpful to the world around me?"
And the person kind of looks around at the group with this sort of, is he always like this expression?
Tyrannosaurus Blup just nods. Just kind of huffs, just a,
And they sort of take the parchment and quill that have been offered, and are you a notary, would you say?
uh no, but I need it because my parents don't believe that adventuring is something that's viable for somebody like me. I've been a
Mm,
scholar most of my life, you know what I mean? But,
right.
look, we're here, we're thriving, right?
Certainly. Yes. And the person quickly scribbles out a few things onto the parchment and holds it up for a moment, creates uh, another line close to the bottom, um, hands back the quill, hands back the extra sheaf of parchment, and holds the single one that they have written on, and takes the parchment and holds it down low to the snow and places 3 fingers near the base of the parchment and momentarily presses it down against the snow, and you hear a little bit of a shift and sizzle kind of sound, and they hand over the parchment to you, and the first thing that you see is 3 sort of teardrop shapes underneath the signature.
I have no idea what this is, but it looks super official. I am so ready to send this to mom. Thank you, kind sir. You are a gentleman and a scholar.
You're very welcome, young Owlin. Let me just make a note on that for later.
Not particularly meant for the person who's done this, but Edward just takes one look at that. And sure, maybe he gets the feeling that this person may not be dangerous by any means, but he kind of has a mixture of very uncomfortable and wary and somewhat interested. So he just kind of takes a few steps back while eyeing the certificate somewhat suspiciously.
That is 100% fair. I am going to. This might come out on Arbor's sheet. I'm not sure. Interesting. Okay. All right. So, Arbor, you were going to show off the talisman to this traveler.
Yeah, I would love to do that. So now that means that we have made it all the way back to the hot springs, to my stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. You weren't particularly far from there, I don't think.
Yeah.
So it's
Great. So I have this.
hmm.
I kind of know what it does, but I'd be very interested in hearing if you have any insight further.
Certainly. Oh, I've seen these. This is the Cairn Walker's Guide, yes?
Should be.
Excellent little piece of enchantment here in the area. I still haven't figured out how the enchanters are able to work with the obsidian like this. It can do a number of things. It's for navigation. I assume you've already gleaned that. It looks like at the moment it is a trail guide. Yes.
Certainly how we've been using it.
It allows you to walk between the cairns. Yes.
Yes.
So at this point, it will continue to go from cairn to cairn as is needed. But you can also use it similarly to a zenith marker, that it will always mark the phase of the sun, which in this weather would be helpful. It can also point north, so it can be used as a navigational compass that way. It can also well, it depends. You seem the sort that's particularly well acquainted with the wilds and things like that. I don't know if you have any other particular affinities, but this can also be used as a bit of a beacon or a detection piece as well. So if you are familiar with those who have the ability to track certain types of animals simply by their presence in the area, this has a similar enchantment on it, it looks like. So for those who might seek elementals, for example, or undead, or other creatures of a certain ilk that don't belong in a particular area, this is a good way to have that sort of indication. And they hand the pendant back to you. I know a great number of the watchers and wardens in this area tend to wear them to help them navigate, can help provide small indications. It's more of a subtle sort of enchantment, but it's quite useful from what I understand.
Thank you. That is very helpful information.
Certainly. Also, for anybody who is well skilled with arcane, you will recognize that this person apparently just cast identify innately.
As in, they just did it without
Yes.
like. Oh.
Yes. They were just able to innately cast identify without really expending a spell slot or anything like that.
Can I raise my hand at this man? Sir?
Yes.
How did you do that? I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. Could you
I second his question.
perhaps teach me?
I don't second that question, but I am not. Sorry.
Edward, as soon as you backpedal, you get a little bit of a push between your shoulder blades that says, Hesitate at knowledge.
You'll have to excuse me. The weather is a little bad on my nerves. What I mean to say, I am interested. I would love to learn. It's just rather nerve-wracking. Sorry about that. Please continue.
Teaching you is a long endeavor. I can tell just by your trappings that you seem to be of an educated sort.
That obvious, huh?
I think if you dedicate yourself, you would do well to reach a point where you might be able to learn such a thing.
When you say dedicate yourself, do you mean I should go back to the library? Because
Not all knowledge is found amid four walls and books.
oh, thank goodness.
Learning happens in all forms, which I think you are just now beginning to get a taste of.
Definitely. And I am enjoying it.
Good. Well, if I mean to get to where I am going in any sort of time, I should probably take my leave. Safe trails to you.
Just
And-
a small hand wave from Bleb with her tiny arm.
Tyrannosaurus wave. And they take off out away from the hot springs and the trail that you came up, seemingly out into the wilds, just at their own heading, and off into what you know is bad weather. But they seem untroubled by that.
Edward kind of looks at the group and points to where the traveler is going and mutters, Do they know that they're heading straight into the... You know what? I shan't even ask. No. Mm-mm.
Ooh.
I think he'll be okay.
Alrighty. With that, what would you like to do? Are you guys ready to kind of tuck in for the evening and get a long rest in?
Are we going to check just to make sure there weren't any imminent major weather things in this little...
Yeah, I think during that whole interaction, I was like getting dressed whilst listening to all of this. And
Yeah.
now I'm like ready to cast Druidcraft just to like triple check, especially. Sounds like Edward
Sure
is
thing.
concerned about the weather.
Yes, we will cue that up in just a moment. While you are casting, would you please roll 3d4s? Oliver.
While that's happening, I would also like to prepare around our campsite. I'd like to cast Alarm as a ritual, just in case the monkeys come back, right? Or any other nasties.
Excellent.
The
Around
monkeys
the
won't
hot
dare.
springs area, around the like outcropping. What's your radius on that spell? Because it's been a second.
I believe it's a 20-foot radius. So if we're gonna be
Okay.
staying in like a particular campsite, I guess I'd just do it like around us.
Okay.
So if anything crosses that barrier, I'd be like, oh.
20-foot radius is definitely going to get you like the little kind of covered cave area that you have and a portion of the hot springs. So like you've got a pretty decent amount of space there that you've
Fantastic.
got for your alarm. All right. Does anybody else have any preparatory things to start with before you have the results of the Druidcraft?
Nope.
Okay. So weather for the next 24 hours. Lots and lots of heavy snow. Heavy snow, thunderheads, very bad weather. At least in the region. There is a little bit of a respite around morning expected, but also there's something about this reading that seems off. I want you to give me a I think this has got to be survival. Give me a survival roll with advantage.
Oh. Finally a decent roll.
Yeah. You can just roll it again. I'll keep that first roll that you got.
Oh.
And you can just roll a single roll again.
Just in case.
Or now that it's actually processing. There we go. Okay, so with the total 20, this is not seasonal. You are at the end of winter, moving into spring. And this is intense weather that is predicted over the next 24 hours. This is not seasonally appropriate. Something is wrong. But that's what Druidcraft is telling you. It's just telling you snow and more snow and more snow. And maybe some lightning. And some snow.
Well, confirmed what we kind of already knew.
Was probably the best place to stay then if it's just going to keep snowing.
Yeah, I would
Rest
agree
up,
with
recover.
Blep just kind of looks at Oliver and then like down at herself, like, okay, can I turn back now? Can I?
I break my concentration on polymorph.
Excellent.
Right. That was fun. Perhaps maybe for travel purposes later we could do something similar, but if we're going to rest here for the night, I would like to be myself.
Where's my list really quickly? Goose and Ginger. Would you please make me a perception roll? Arbor, something is moving out in the trees.
Don't like that. Do I know what or just
You know the
there
monkeys
is
left.
movement?
The monkeys are gone. And before you guys were fighting the yokel, like the forest went quiet.
Is there a chance it's our puppy friend? Or is it
Well,
definitely something
the
else?
dire wolf is still kind of in the area because it sustained a deadly injury. So like as long as it's like safe enough, the dire wolf is not really wanting to go anywhere. You are hearing what sounds like animals or something out in the trees.
Oh, how fun.
But you are coming up on evening here. It is starting to get much darker because what would have been daylight was already kind of dusk-like. And so now as it moves into actual dusk, it is getting quite dark.
Helm's unaware. It's just going about camp set up.
Okay.
Oh, I was just asking, like, with that 18, Callum didn't notice anything in the forest?
Nothing that seemed out of the ordinary.
Okay.
Like, it's quiet, but also there was just a demon
Yeah.
fiend kind of thing that was going on. So, like, nature
We
hasn't
just
quite.
had a battle. There was a T-Rex next to us
Yeah.
until like minutes ago. Okay. So yeah, I would just be setting up camp.
Yes, Oliver.
While we're setting up, and I assume we're also doing things like preparing our meals and whatnot, right?
Mhm.
I situate myself so that I'm a little closer to Sir Blep, and in a low voice, I ask, "So, what was it like being a T-Rex? Did you like it?"
Well, I certainly liked being so tall for once. I just towering over everything. It was very interesting. But I didn't quite feel like myself, and so that wasn't really fun for me. But
Oh, I'm sorry.
it has no. It was fine. It was very fine. It was a very smart decision in the moment. And I feel like it could have had wonderful combat purposes. And definitely we should keep that in mind for the future. But just afterwards, it was a little bit weird. But it was fine.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know.
I love it. I love it so much.
By any chance, also, does Arbor seem perturbed in any way, shape, or form? Or
Yeah, I was trying to decide if, like, the rest of the party has not noticed these animal sounds.
no?
Arbor is one who tends to keep to himself, so if anything, he might seem a little off, and it's because the gears are turning in his head as per whether or not to tell everybody else that this is going on. And I think it takes him a while, but eventually, yeah. Like, hey, I don't know, does anybody else hear some stuff going on? Or is that just me? I don't want to alarm anybody.
You ask that question, Blep immediately like draws her sword. Wait, please hold. Sword at the ready.
Uh-huh.
Just goes, what did you hear? And starts like actively listening. Maybe like a little bit of a low growl in the back of her throat, like, I'm ready.
Calm
And if
down.
possible, I would like to make a perception check.
Just a moment. I saw Edward's hand for a second there. Did you have something or did it pass?
Mainly just a brief question. How close is where it was a yokel, right? That was the demon we went against.
Yeah.
How close is the tree where he had first appeared? Is it still nearby where we are, or would I have to be separated from
It
the
is
group?
in this grove, but it is like 60 feet away from where you currently are.
Okay. I think in that case, Edward isn't too far from the group, but he is kind of staring off in that direction. So he's
Okay.
kind of half listening. I think he's somewhat aware of what Arbor just told them, but he's not quite at the ready for the fighting. He's more lost in his thoughts about what they just fought.
Okay.
Just
Is he like glancing towards the tree and like having thoughts, or is he like looking at the tree and trying to figure things out about the tree?
It's kind of like Tom Hanks at the end of the Da Vinci Code, where he's figuring out everything. So he's kind of zoned in and focused onto it. And his eyes are kind of looking
Okay.
at every part of it. If there's something that maybe catches his eye, if he wants to go a little forward, but he doesn't want to make that step yet.
Okay. Would you also roll me a perception check
I
on the tree? And then Blep, you wanted to do a perception check on the forest potential
Correct.
stuff. Was there anybody else in hearing Arbor's description that wanted to get in on that perception check as well? You are welcome to.
Let me like, yes, try again.
Sure.
Kind of refocus, I guess would be how I'd describe it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. The first one was like you had a chance given that your passive
yeah,
was high enough. But like this is somebody drew
like
your attention to
actively
it.
listening.
I'll
Yeah,
like
try and
actively
catch something
listen.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. And Oliver, you have the opportunity to do that as well if you would like. While you finish up with those checks, Edward, so you were kind of half listening to this conversation about things being out in the woods, but you were like zoomed in on this broken, split tree that the yokel burst forward from. And you are noticing the same sort of yellow ichor like dripping from the now carcass of this tree. It was what would have been like an insect affected tree trunk. And so it had started to kind of rot from the inside in that way. It had that kind of hollowed out tree trunk, but it was not like fallen at that point. There was enough stability in the tree trunk that allowed you to still have a standing, if dead, tree. And this yokel had taken residence in the shell of that tree. And so then when it made itself known, it just splintered that remaining tree trunk apart. And so everything that had been along the inside is just covered in that same yellow ichor that covered the yokel itself. And it's slowly starting to dissolve the remaining wood that was against the surface into that sort of gelatinous, acid-ridden, ruinous puddle.
Okay. I think, unfortunately, since he is half listening, I think Edward's curiosity is going to slightly get the better of him. And it's not like he's maybe doing it on purpose. I think it's more the curiosity is leading him to walk closer to the tree. He still has his guard fairly up. They just fought. Their comrade was a Tyrannosaurus Rex for a while. They met a person who straight up walked into a storm nonchalantly. So, he's still a bit aware of what's going on, but he's going to start walking towards the tree. He's curious. He wants to know.
Okay. All right. So on the like rechecks from Sir Blep and Kellum, now that Arbor has kind of pointed it out to you, you do sort of hear what seems like wildlife coming back. You hear wings in the trees. And actually, as you kind of look up, the three of you notice a couple of crows land on a branch on the opposite side of the hot spring from where you are, but not too far off. And you can see them sort of settle in and hunker down on the branch there.
But it would be like natural wildlife, like nothing out of the ordinary, just kind of like returning to where it was before it went eerily silent.
You do not
be able to
remember
tell?
seeing crows in this clearing before. That's not to say that they weren't around, but you don't remember seeing crows here before. Also, give me a survival check, Callum.
Straight.
Yeah. Let me double check really quickly. What was your primeval awareness? It was beasts, humanoids. Did you have a third one?
I think it was Beast humanoids. That was it.
Okay. So with the 23, your survival instinct says this is really high winds for there to be birds moving somewhere, that they would arrive in a place that they were not already before the storm hit. And you do not remember seeing crows in this area before you fought the yokel when you were talking to the monkeys.
I'll at least share some of that kind of question or surprise. Like, crows weren't here before, were they? Something doesn't seem right. I probably can't.
Edward, as you continue to approach the broken tree, you continue
I don't like where this is going.
you continue to walk towards the broken tree. And you are
Mm.
kind of getting closer to like where the crows landed, but you're not really paying them much mind. But you've gone out and around the hot spring now, and
Mm.
you are looking down at the remains of the tree and how it seems to be dissolving. And there's something odd about it. You've never really run across something like this before.
Mm.
And in that way, it piques your curiosity. And like you can tell, you've worked with a lot of things. You're a pretty educated guy. And like you've seen people in the village like trying to work with remedies and things like that. And so you've seen things dissolve in acid before.
Mhm.
And this is kind of reminding you of those kind of more scientific styled endeavors from your youth and when you were learning how things would interact with one another. And there's something about this that makes it more than just that scientific memory. But it taps into that curiosity that you had as a child
Mm.
of the wanting to learn and wanting to discover how the world interacted with itself and all of the things that can kind of come out of that. And you're seeing this strange creature having tried to interact in the natural world, in the Terran plane, and it certainly left its mark, but only for so long, right? And there's this remaining lingering effect that it has had in being here. And you kind of have this moment to wonder how much that is going to continue to affect the ecosystem that's here. I'm going to have you make me a religion check
Okay.
quickly.
I think with just thinking through how Callum would have reacted to the information, I think seeing Edward kind of wander off on his own, I feel like they're kind of opposite directions. Like there's one direction is the tree off to one side, and then the hot springs with the crow is kind of off to the other.
They're
So I feel
probably about
like
20 degrees apart in your field of
okay,
view. Because like the
I feel
crows are
like
kind of like off this way, and then
yeah, it's
Edward's
like
kind of
I know
veered
it
off.
was straight out from the hot spring.
Yeah.
He would like just draw his bow out of instinct, knowing something was off. I almost feel like sneak, like try to quietly go kind of in the middle of the three things.
Interesting. Okay. Go ahead and roll me a
something's
stealth.
off.
Do you
And
still have pass without a trace up? I can't remember.
it's probably expired at this point.
Okay. So
I
go
think
ahead
it's
and
only
make
for an
a
hour.
direct stealth
Just a
check
direct
for me.
stealth.
Edward,
Mm.
this creature shows a lot of signs that you remember from your early education as a fiend. And you remember that fiends do not belong here. Fiends have their own plane. They do not belong on the Terran plane. It should not have been here at all. There is no reason for it to have been here that you know. There are like old wives' tales and boogeyman stories about fiends that you remember from your childhood. But as you got older and were able to educate yourself, you actually looked into fiends as part of your religious training. And they are not part of the Ashfold caldera. They are very unusual to see in this area. And something allowed this Yoklol to exist here. And you don't know what it is yet, but you know that it shouldn't have gotten here under normal circumstancing. Something allowed it to be here. And you actually know that it is a Yoklol thanks to that roll. You know exactly what that is. And you know that the one that you fought was not particularly strong.
No, no. There's like a really bad, you know, that feeling where you kind of feel your heart drop.
Mm-hmm.
He feels it right at that moment, and he slowly starts taking a few steps away from the tree.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not turning around. It's like he's facing, even though it is a tree that's rotting from the inside out, it still feels like a creature that's looking down on him about to pounce. So he's keeping his eyes on it, and he's taking steps back, and he's just looking terrified. His eyes are widening up. His body's getting all tense. There's a sensation that he just wants to run away, but he's forcing himself not to because he, one, cannot afford to be somewhere alone, and he's not going to leave the rest of his party completely alone without this knowledge whatsoever. So he's going to keep taking steps back until he's close enough to the group to relay this information.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Oh, no.
Okay. So everybody who's keeping an eye on the wildlife, what are we doing? And Oliver, you set your alarm spell. Have you been doing anything else to prepare for your evening?
I would also like to cast as a ritual, Leoman's tiny hut, just so you know.
Okay.
You have a little house.
Excellent. An excellent choice. So you're going to be spending 10 minutes casting Leoman's tiny hut. Fantastic. All right. What are we doing?
Blepsel has her sword drawn. She kind of sidles up next to Kellum and is just like, "What do you see? Is there anything that we should be on guard for?"
At this point, have I seen anything different, or are we still? Is it just kind of the crows and kind of watching Edward back?
Yeah,
towards...
as far as you can tell, as you've been scanning the area, nothing else is really going on. There's just these two crows that are chilling on this tree branch. But your knowledge of the storm and the area says, how did they get here, though?
Right. And I haven't seen anything, but something still isn't right. I think timing-wise with Edward assuming it's all kind of happening, right? Seeing kind of Edward come back towards the group would probably do something similar, kind of like motion back, like I think we can all kind of regroup and try and figure out
Mm-hmm.
what to do next.
Yep. Alrighty. Do you have anything else that you would like to do before you head into the tiny hut?
Possibly, but
Okay.
this is a question for Ponderkind. Did you cast a spell regarding safety? Like some sort of a safety spell for us already? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I cast alarm on the area where we will
Okay.
be camping. So it'll just like tell me if like somebody that's not us enters that area.
Okay. Got it. All right. In that case, we're good. Nope. We're set.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Any like dailies that you would like to do before you sleep for the evening and gain back all of your dailies?
No, basically, Blup is just gonna like have sword out, wait for everyone else to get into the tiny hut, and then she will get into the tiny hut as well.
Yes, Oliver.
I as I finish casting tiny hut, I'm going to add a few finishing touches on the inside. So I enter the hut and use prestidigitation to like just spread like the smell of lavender on the air. Just so
Very nice.
it's nice and
Make
cozy
it
for
all,
my friends.
make it all cozy. I'm here for it. I am here for it. Alrighty.
Big storm, ominous crows, lavender scented hut.
Yeah. Gotta have those nice little quality of life things. Alrighty. Anything else? Very well. Who would like to roll me a d12?
Ooh, I'll do it. Oh,
Very well. Thank you very much. So, do you take a watch? Do you all just bed down in the hut and call it good? How do you guys end your evening, basically?
Blep will definitely take a watch because she's pretty fine right now. She used one spell, she's lost one hit point. I think other than that, yeah, no, she hasn't really used up her hit point pool or anything like that. So she'll take a watch.
All right.
I think we can like rotate through watches,
Mhm.
right? So essentially,
Yeah.
we all like.
Yes.
I definitely like. Kel would like recommend with everything just not adding
Not
up.
being right. Yeah.
We should definitely have someone on watch
Mm-hmm.
throughout the night.
Mm-hmm.
In order for everybody to get their full night's sleep, if you want to have a watch for everyone, all of you will have to take basically a 2-hour
Mm-hmm.
turn to get that full 8 hours.
Yep.
Somebody had damage at the end of the last fit. Oliver had damage.
Oliver, I had healed
It's
a
me.
little
I
bit
am
of it.
damaged.
Yes, Oliver and Sir Blep, though it doesn't matter quite so much for Sir Blep, you are both able to roll your half of your hit dice without having to expend your hit dice for your long rest. You may spend additional hit dice if you would like to heal yourself, but you can roll half of your hit dice without having to expend them. Nobody is multi-classed, so it does not matter that you choose the lesser value of the two. So, Sir Blep, your remaining scratches heal. And Oliver, you can roll. What is your hit die? I don't even remember. But you can roll 5 of your hit die.
Okay.
To heal up with your long rest sleep. And as we are resolving that, the evening passes without much event, as far as you can tell. I do want to ask each of you, though, as you take your guard shift, what it is you do during the course of that 2 hours. So, Edward, how do you spend your 2 hours awake over the night?
It's not a good 2 hours. He's really nervous and he's lost in thought. He's praying a lot. And he's slightly frustrated that he keeps getting either cryptic messages or nothing whatsoever. So he's just praying and trying to figure out what's going on. Sometimes he's just quiet. He just wants to listen if anything catches his attention. But for the most part, it's thinking, praying, and weirdly enough, he keeps going back to seeing the tree and seeing it like rotting from the inside out. I don't know. There's a pain in him and he's trying to hide it. So it's a rough 2 hours, but he knows every time he starts to feel more negatively about what's going on, he keeps seeing the group and he's just like, you got to keep it together. So he's trying to put all his focus into pray and get whatever answers you can and make sure that they're safe. That's his 2 hours, bestie. It's not a
Nice.
good 2 hours, but it's a 2 hours nonetheless.
Would you please roll me a percentile?
Would you be able to remind me how to do so on D&D
Yes.
Beyond?
You're going to have to go down to the dice menu in the lower left, and you'll see a D100 option. So you'll click that once and then click roll to table.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Callum, how do you spend your 2 hours?
With everything outside, I would see Kellum kind of quietly make his way out of the hut and kind of find a corner out of sight that can kind of watch the front of the hut, but really have a good view of the forest in front of it, but kind of be in the shadows almost. So kind of, hood up, kind of bundle, but bow is there, like ready to go. But
Callum is
not
doing his best to blend in with the stonework.
blend in, but have
Yeah.
be ready to react if he needs to, but not be obscured by being in the hut during watch. Just in case movement or something happened that particularly catches his eye.
The trees whistle loudly with the storm. And you have dark vision, right?
I do.
You can see dimly in a grayed silhouette the crows still out in the tree. They have moved very little. And over the course of probably the first half hour that you are out there, you are able to notice in the clearing at least 4 more collected in the time that you were in the hut. They're not doing anything. They're just sitting in the trees. I missed that. Your mic didn't pick it up.
All right, more have arrived.
Yes.
Like more have shown up. Okay.
There's a total of 6 now.
Okay.
All right. Sir Blep.
Similar to Kellum, Sir Blep takes her watch outside of the hut, kind of circling around it in a wider radius than the actual hut. And her ears are just like twitching, looking for any signs of something wrong because she does not have dark vision.
Sorry, Callum?
It's like, if this is the order, like I'm just assuming if we're doing it in order, whoever was next, like Callum would at least mention that change.
Oh, that there's more
Yeah.
crows. Okay.
That it just kind of one of those passing, like nothing really happened, but
Mhm.
more crows have shown up.
Okay. As an addendum to that, she will occasionally glare in the direction that she remembers the crows being and being like, "Don't you try anything." And she's just listening very carefully for her
out
2
into
hours.
the
Got her sword
amazing.
out and everything, just
Oh.
I might
Menacingly.
not be able to see you, but I've got my ears on you.
Amazing. So yes, the biggest thing that you notice in the course of this is that you continue to have very very loud storm, and you can hear the rumbling of thunder around the area that you're in, and it's just a miserable storm. There doesn't seem to be any approach. There doesn't seem to be anything particularly big or noticeable during that 2 hours that you're out there. But apparently there are crows out there in the darkness. All right.
She'll also pass on that info to whoever has watch next after her that there's more of them.
Perfect. Oliver, what would you like to do for your 2 hours awake?
I don't think I have any coffee on me, so I take my water skin and
Mhm.
I use prestidigitation to flavor the water, make it taste like coffee, and to make it hot.
The comforts of home. Yeah. Yes.
Mhm,
Yes.
it's all psychological, right? And as I sit down to take my watch, I resist the temptation to whip out the certificate that I got from the strange traveler man and just stare at it.
So you don't
and
pull it out of your pack, and you really
I,
want to, but you
I,
don't.
as bravely as I can, I resist the urge, and I keep my eye on the crows and anything else that needs keeping an eye on. If anything, um, I would also like to maybe um set up dancing lights just so I have a better view of anything that will approach from the darkness.
Okay. Yeah. You can definitely do that. And there is something particularly cheering about that for you as well, because that's easily something that you did often um, while you were in the course of your studies and up late with your books and all of that kind of stuff. There's something very familiar and comforting in that practice for you. And you kind of take a moment to just kind of watch them move and move them around a little bit and just let that practice be rejuvenating in itself for you. While we're paused here, do you want to roll up your hit dice recovery for your long rest?
I have been attempting to try that. I don't know if
I
it'll.
I haven't
Oh,
seen it. So basically just
oh,
take
okay.
what is your wizard hit die? What
I believe it's D4.
Okay. So is it one hit die per level? It's been a while since I had to look at those.
I think so. But also, I sent you a private message. I don't know
Oh,
if
there
it'll
it is.
count as long rest for me if I do that. Question mark?
Hmm. Ooh, yeah. So in that case, you
I
can
just sip my
certainly do
coffee.
that, but you can either do that over your guard point when you're already awake, or you can take extra time to do that.
I don't think I want to do that while I'm guarding because I want to be focused on guarding.
Okay.
So
So
I
if
guess
you're
I'll
going to
just
take
be a
extra
little
time
sleep deprived.
during that, you
Hmm.
will have the advantage of a short rest.
Okay.
And I will still grant you 2 hit dice. So go ahead and roll those 2d4 and add those to your heal.
Sounds
You can put them in the little box next to your hit points there and then hit the green heal button with that total.
Ooh, okay.
Sweet.
Fantastic.
Nice. So you heal 8 points for free. And then you can spend as many of your hit points as you want to, the same way you would on a short rest.
Seems good.
So you can
I
still
think
expend hit dice if you would like.
I think I'm okay for now. But
All right.
yeah, we're pretty happy about that.
My hit point total doesn't seem to be updating for you.
Oh,
There it is. I had to
strange.
refresh.
Okay.
It's
There you
fine. I was like, wait a second. Why is it not working?
go.
Alrighty. So we have the mystery action to be revealed later. That is your guard shift. Depending on how far you like send the dancing lights out, if you send them out beyond the edge of the hot spring there and like out past your alarm spell, you'll be able to actually visually see the crows illuminated with the dancing lights spell, but that depends on how far you send out the orbs for the dancing lights.
I don't think I want to provoke the crows, so just far enough beyond the alarm spells that I can see anybody coming, right? If that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah. So just kind of giving yourself a little bit more of a radius of visibility. Gotcha. Alrighty. There you are. Arbor, what do you do for your guard shift?
Hello. So I think I've had enough of a dip in the hot springs, but I do sort of wander out and
Mhm.
just rest my feet in them as a little
Mhm.
warm up while I'm looking around and checking out the surroundings. And
Yeah.
while I'm doing so, my curiosity is getting the best of me, and I would like to scry and
Okay.
see how our direwolf friend is doing.
Okay.
Just to
Um,
pass the time.
I, I love that you are scrying on the dire wolf that is basically nearby.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm over here, but I'm gonna see what you're doing.
It's because
That's hilarious.
I'm more into the plants, so I'm not gonna like immediately go over and try and,
Right.
cuddle up to it, but I'm just curious,
Yeah. Um. Alrighty. So with scry, we are doing which aspect are you? We're using knowledge of the target, right?
Yes. Yeah, I don't have anything else on me. I don't have any remnants of the direwolf to use, so I think it's just I have
Yeah.
seen and met the target firsthand. Do I cast this?
It looks like we are. This is going to be a save. Yeah, this is going to be a save on my part.
Gotcha.
So let me pull up the direwolf again here. Do do do. Excellent. Alrighty. So all right, yeah. So the direwolf save or does not save against the scry. And so you are able to, in your mind's eye, get this kind of zooming image of the direwolf. It is curled up, kind of burrowed a little bit into the banked snow on the far side of this protected space, about as close to the edge away from the five of you as it can get, but not wanting to venture out into the weather and the wilds at this point. And you see that though it seems to be trying to drift towards sleep, Its breathing is labored, and it does seem to be in a great deal of discomfort. And you cannot really get into the, like, you can't get it into its head with scry, but everything about the physical state of this animal proves that it went through a battle with the 5 of you and came out the other side with the short end of the stick.
Oh.
There is red in the snow around it.
Poor thing.
Which, for anybody who does not recall from last month, a month ago IRL, you did fell the dire wolf. And so it's like barely back on its feet after that.
Yeah. While this is going on, am I sensing anything with the birds yet? Because we're nearing the end of the night now, I assume.
Yeah, it is basically around the time that would be sunrise. So you are getting a little bit of a lightning in the area. But the crows are still just hanging out in the trees. They don't seem to be any more or less noisy than they were when you first noticed them. They're just there. There are 6 of them, as has been passed down to you. And you can see, because you have dark vision as well, yeah?
Yeah, I do. Which is convenient. You know, darkest before the dawn, eh?
Mhm.
So internally, Arbor has a decision. It's like getting a little restless nearing the end of the evening. I'm like,
Mhm.
should I polymorph into a bird just to do some more, like, a bird's eye view scouting of what is going on right now?
Uh-huh.
Or does Arbor try to find this direwolf and potentially, you know, maybe we get a familiar added to the party? So this internal dilemma is I'm just like kicking my feet in the hot springs right now. And like weather-wise, I'm assuming it's pretty much the same as it's been throughout the night so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are in a protected area, but you can hear that the snowstorm continues to be horrible.
Yeah. Then maybe not the best idea to go bird mode. I think Arbor goes. He decides to get out and dry himself off a little bit, mostly just like kicking his flippers
Mhm.
off, and embarks out to try and find this wolf, which is a little unusual, a little out of character for Arbor, but he just can't help himself. Especially, I feel a little guilty after the way I treated those monkeys. So I'm like,
We'll
I
make it up
should
to nature.
pay off some of my bad karma with some good karma. So I embark to
Yes.
go and find this dire wolf, perhaps bringing anything that I have on hand that could help it,
Mhm.
which I don't know that I have much of other than just spells.
While we are in the midst of things, could the other 4 of you please roll me initiative rolls? Just so that we can get a sense of how quickly folks are waking up in the morning.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Is that all?
Um,
Yes. Because Arbor is already awake.
DM question.
Yes.
Just a reminder, I have rolled the D100 and it's a 72. I have rolled the initiative and it's a 14. Now you know my numbers. I can tell
Yeah.
you more.
My
I'm getting
initiative
back
is a
around
3.
to that centile roll in just a moment. So,
Elm just pops awake.
also, there was not a particular discussion on who ended up with the equipment. I know that Sir Blep is the one who recorded all of the equipment that you received over the course of your adventures so far. So, if it were me, I would default to Blep having carried that equipment, but that's up to you guys. But you do know, Arbor, that in your collective assets, you do have those things that you received from the guildmaster or from your shopping in town and from the constable. So there's that as well. But you go off in the direction of the dire wolf, who is probably about 120, between 120 and 200 feet away from where Liamon's tiny hut is that Oliver cast. And it is kind of the direction that you came from, but not exactly. It's like a little bit turned away from there, but it's in the general clearing of where you're camped down for the night. And basically, the wolf just tried to get as far away from you guys as possible without leaving the protection of this little alcove in the mountain.
So is it wary of me and my approaching, since we did have a tussle?
It's, well, you know what? Let me see. We shall see. And yes, I am borrowing your character sheet at the moment. So the direwolf is not aggressive so much as it is like it's watching you approach, and it kind of makes gestures of like wanting to shirk away from you, and you can hear a bit of a growl. But it's not moving in a way that makes you think that it's gonna leap at you anytime soon.
All right. Well, I definitely slow my roll and make it as clear as possible with my body language that I'm not a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And then refresh my brain. Did I cast? Was it Cure Wounds?
I think I did cure wounds on it. You did medicine or something, I think, to like revive it, and then I
Right.
healed it as we were trying to stabilize it or something.
Yes.
But there's a
Okay.
little bit of
Also, for everybody, up at the top of your character sheet, there is a short rest and a long rest button. So do yourself a favor if you haven't already. Please click your appropriate either short rest or long rest buttons to reset all of your dailies and everything that resets on those rests. So if
Okay.
you have any expended spell slots, if you have any short rest abilities that reset, make sure that you reset those.
I got yelled at last week in a different session for hitting it too early, and there was combat. So I was like, I'm going to be super cautious and not do it.
Yes, now is the time.
Great. I would like to cast Healing Spirit then.
Okay.
Perhaps conjure up a spirit to heal our friend, and hopefully the spirit is more friend shaped than my big gangly bird creature.
Yes. I would like you to also cast an animal handling roll.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
And this is mostly just to see if you critically fail it at this point.
Oh great. So just a regular one then.
Mhm.
Ooh.
You did not critically fail the roll. The dire wolf is still quite suspicious of you coming up close. But you do successfully cast Healing Spirit, and you can roll those dice so that you can let me know what level are you casting it at, by the way.
That's what I was gonna ask. How? I mean,
How wounded is
yeah.
Give me just a moment here. I will answer that in a better way for you.
Thank you.
Not like that, though, brain. So the dire wolf is very, very gravely hurt. At this distance, you are able to see that while you did staunch the wound in its chest, it's still very much present. And so you are able to see that, like, the fur is soaked across its chest, and it has still been very, very injured even after the healing. And it, it's an animal. It's not a human or another adventuring race. So most animals like this do not have the ability to deal with shock of injuries the way that, like, humans do. So it's very clear that the animal has not been doing well.
I think we'll go with 4th level Healing Spirit.
Okay.
And then do I just click? I think that should do the roll.
Yeah,
for
your
me,
little
right?
your little
Great.
box there will roll the dice for you all at
I
once.
love that. Ooh, lucky number
Nice.
13.
Very nice, though. So, very good. Where did my
Puppy.
So, with that healing spell, the direwolf does seem to finally take, like, a full breath again. And you see its eyes kind of light up a little bit more, where it's like the only thing in its mind was the state of its being. Now that you have cast this healing spell, it actually has, like, the capacity to, like, notice its surroundings and notice you and, like, become more alert to the situation. And it's clear that the animal's still injured, but it can be an animal again and not just miserable.
Puppy.
And it kind of, instead of, like, you know how, like, when animals are sick and they just kind of, like, flop over wherever they are, it actually kind of readjusts and, like, kind of sits in a relaxed state, but is actually able to kind of, like, readjust and kind of bring back what would be, like, dignity to its posture and just be more of itself again.